ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Druk's Milan Unboxing. And today, sitting across from me, we have one of South Africa's top trainers, Damien Durandt. Now, welcome Damien, good to have you.
Druk's, I appreciate the interview.
Always great here in the bubble at Emperor's Palace. Now, it's a stupid question for South African because your name is synonymous with boxing, but we've got some people in the UK watching it, a couple of Americans, and I see a few Filipino subscribers. So you grew up in boxing, so just explain to us how it all started.
Yeah, so I grew up in boxing my whole life. My late father was Damien Durandt, who produced 97 South African champions, 28 international champions and 38 world champions. So from a young boy I was always around boxing. I grew up around it, whether it was watching the boxing at home or being at boxing tournaments or carrying belts to the ring. I was always surrounded by boxing, and obviously going with my dad to the gym. I remember from a young age I used to even play a little bit of cricket while the guys were eating the punching bag.
Yes.
So I've spent my whole life around boxing, and yeah, this is what I do for a living.
Right, so he's the son of the late Nick Durandt. Nick Durandt's nickname, of course, Umtakati. That means a magician in Xhosa or Zulu. So here in Umtakati Umcha, the younger one, the younger version. You never boxed yourself, Damien? That never bet you?
No, I did want to when I was younger. I wanted to get involved in amateurs. My dad was like okay-ish with it. My mom wouldn't let me. At that time, obviously, my parents were divorced and my mom wasn't willing to let me box, so it was difficult to find myself doing that. However, I did train in the gym around the pros. I used to do a little bit of sparring, you know,
yes,
if you can call it such
yes.
things. But yeah, I used to spar a couple of the pro fighters back then and just mess around in the gym. So it's been in my blood since I was born, and I just loved to play around with it a bit when I was younger.
So you had a very extensive apprenticeship, sort of organically with your dad. I remember watching on TV way back then. I always saw you in the ring. You were a little blonde lighty with a little fashion mullet and a serious in front party at the back.
100%. And some buffaloes back in the day.
Yeah. And with late Ginger Chabalala also saw you a lot with him. So eventually your dad said, okay, he's done with us, and he gave over the reins to you. Which year was that?
May 2016, my father retired. When he retired, I actually contemplated whether or not to get into boxing. At that time I was very happy. I was running a boxing gym, I was training the public, and I was quite happy with that. Obviously I've been involved with pros, and I just felt like if my dad's walking away, maybe I should walk away with him, you know, because something we did together. And for about 2 weeks we sat and we discussed it, and he said to me, my boy, just go and do it. Just go out there, prove to everyone that it is in the blood. Go make a world champion, and then come back to me and see from there. And I did. And
that's what you now did. At the beginning of this year, I think, Ilunga Junior Makabu, the WBC Cruiserweight Champion of the world. You went to the Kinshasa in Zaire. I think the first world title fight that was held there since the Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And you brought home a bacon, but before that, just the run-up before that, Makabu fought for a world title before. He knocked Tony Bellew down, it turned into a disaster. He got knocked out to himself. Yes. And then under you, he started making a sort of a comeback, and it was a whole murderous row. The last 2 fights before world title fights, he fought Dmitry Kudrashov in Russia. Tell us a bit about that fight.
So just to give you a bit of a background around Junior, when after he lost to Tony Bellew, I think he took a couple of months off. At that time, my father had already retired, and he came to sit down with me. He said to me, Damien, the only way I'm going to win a world title is if I win it with you. My dream was to win a world title, and your dad would have been a part of me winning a world title. I made a mistake, and I need to rectify that, and I know that if I'm with you, I'll accomplish being a world champion. So I said, Junior, no problem. Let's get the show on the road. So we had a bit of two very easy comeback fights for him.
Yes. We
fought Taylor Mabika for the WBC International. After that, he won it in Congo.
That was in
We stopped him in 5 rounds. We then had 1 or 2 smaller fights, and then we had the WBC vacant silver title against Dmitry Kudrashov, the Russian Hammer. Going into that fight, I was obviously very conscious of Kudrashov's power. He's seen as one of the heaviest hitters in the division, if not one of the heaviest hitters around. So, went into that fight, we prepared extremely hard for it. It was a war, they got stuck into each other.
A real nice firefight, bloody business that,
yeah. Spectator pleaser. So, got to round 2 and Junior just wanted to open up, and they got caught up in the exchange, and they both hit each other, but Kudrashov went down, Junior came back, put it up, Kudrashov at the end of the run, and just laid down the punishment until the referee said it was no more at the end of round 5.
It was a real ding-dong affair. You guys can check it on YouTube. Kudryashov against Makabu. The thing about Junior is never in a bad fight. Right? He does get hit, he does get hurt, but he also puts the hurt on the guy. Heavy-handed guy with quick hands, also an unorthodox sort of punches from his southpaw.
Definitely. He's not your ordinary boxer. He's a different kind of fighter. He's not tightly composed and comes forward and just does what he does. He comes from awkward angles, he throws punches from different places. So he's a very tricky fighter to fight. Not many guys understand his dynamic, and by the time you start to get a bit of an idea, he's either laid you out or he's won. So
yeah. And then back to Russia once again, another tough guy, Alexei Papin, who originally I believe came from a kickboxing background. And that was broadcast in America, I think, on a few channels. And it was another all-action affair. It went the distance this time.
Yes.
How did you find that fight with Alexei Papin?
So it was a cracker. It was voted. It was part of the candidates for WBC Fight of the Year. It was a great fight. It was a great card. It was Kovalev versus Yard as the main fight.
Yes.
Junior and Papin was the main supporting fight. It was a defense by Silva. We got a call from Russia because we had a contract agreement for a second fight or whatever, and it was a little bit short notice. We had like 4 weeks to prepare for the fight, so we jumped on it. We knew that Junior had a good preparation for Kudryashov. We had just got out the ring, so we weren't too stressed. Went in for preparation. It was a tough fight.
Very tough fight. Yeah.
Papin came very well prepared. If you look at the background of it, actually, is that the trainer that trains Papin is the same trainer that trained Kudryashov. So when a trainer sat and studied you for 6-7 months, he's got an idea of what a fighter is going to come with. So, and he was studying the same fighter. So he studied Makabu for Kudryashov and he studied Makabu for Papin, where I had to adjust the study material and adjust the fight plan and put it all together in 4 weeks. So Makabu came out of the fight superbly. He won on points. I was actually very happy the fight went 2 points because often or not, you kind of see guys that knock out everyone, and then they get to a point situation. They're not sure if they're able to carry out for 12 or get to that situation. So Junior went 12 rounds with Papin. He put him down in round 12. It was a questionable knockdown in round 8. That was ruled a slip. But we pulled out a good win in Russia. It was a tough fight, but my man did the job.
And Papin, since has come back, he's back in the ring's top 10.
Yes.
So it looks better in retrospect.
100%. He beat Russian Pfeiffer. He stopped him. I think the fight ended in round 5.
Yes, he stopped Pfeiffer. And then you finally got the second world title shot now for Junior, first with him, and you went to Kinshasa in Zaire. What was the experience like going to the Congo?
It was superb, to be honest. We stayed in a beautiful hotel. Both camps stayed in a very nice 5-star hotel. The setup was very nice. It was set up on an open field, very African kind of vibe. Set up on a field, nice ring layout. The whole atmosphere of it made me feel like I was back in the 1970s.
Okay.
It had that old school vibe to it. We were walking the streets, people were screaming for Makabu. So it was a special moment for me. I think it's a moment that I'll never forget in my career, and obviously producing my first world champion and it being a WBC world champion. But the biggest thing for me that fight was that my dad always believed that Makabu would become a world champion, and unfortunately they didn't do it together. But I feel like I accomplished my father's task in making Junior a world champion.
Okay. And so the DRC was quite good to you, when people, especially if you sit overseas, not so much us in South Africa, you think DRC, you think, whoa, this is a danger thing, or it could be a hell ride. But it was a very good experience. I saw you met the president there as well.
Yes, so we met the president, we met the Minister of Sports, the Minister of Finance. Chislak's team, the Polish fighter, when they arrived in Thing, they were escorted by police escort to the hotel. They were looked after, put in a beautiful hotel. The officials were blown away by the way they were looked after. So everything ran nice and smoothly. I think the WBC were happy with how everything played out. It was well put together, considering the fact that there hadn't been a world title in over 50 years in Congo. So
okay. I was talking to Eric Kapia, who's from the DRC, who's on the vault tomorrow. Is there, in your opinion, something like a Congolese style? You also have another Congolese fighter, Imani Colombo, we'll get to him just now. He says that, it's a much more power-based style, whereas the guys here are more technical, or you think that's just his perception?
Look, I think Congolese in general, if you look at 90% of them are good power punchers. If you look at Eric Kapke's record, he doesn't have that many KOs on his record, so he may not have that kind of weaponry when he goes into the ring. He's a fair puncher for me, my feeling, but I definitely think that the Congolese are born with something, and it's definitely out there from the Congo that there's power in the hands. All my Congolese fighters, between Makabu, Colombo, and you've seen Matata, so all of them carry good power. So I think it's generally Congolese fighters have good power.
Now for Junior Makabu, I know he can have a voluntary defense now if he wants to. We chatted about it the other night. What would you want next to him? Next for him? What would be first prize?
So for me, I think the big key would be a unification. You know, there's talks of Marius Bradis leaving the division and joining the heavyweight division. If he does do that, it's because he's chasing a fight for Usyk. That's what he had said. He wants a rematch with Usyk. If that's the case, that's what he's going after. I would like to see Makabu unify the division. I think very few African fighters have unified, and I think it's a massive accomplishment if they do unify and obviously become the unified champion. I'd also like to see him hopefully fight for the Ring Magazine title, because there's very few Africans. Off the top of my list, I can think of Heki Badla as one. I think Azuma Nelson maybe fought for the Ring title.
I don't recall Azuma Nelson, I'm not 100% sure, but I know we've had Vic Tawil. Brian Mitchell and Arnold Taylor, and Brian Mitchell were recognized as champions at the time when Ring wasn't giving out belts for some reason. So it is a very rare thing.
So that's definitely something I would love to see him fight for, the Ring Magazine, just to be crowned as the king of the division.
Breeders has mentioned that if there's an opportunity, he'll go up to heavyweight. I doubt if Usyk is going to fight him. Usyk is chasing a title. So it's very likely that Breeders is going to stay at cruiserweight. So would you like to fight Breeders?
I would, honestly. I think if you look at paper, it's number 1 and 2 fighting each other. If you look at the fight that happened between Dorticos and Breeders, if you look on paper, it wasn't number 1 and number 2 fighting each other. It was just the tournament series that number 1 and number 2 were fighting each other, with the finalists. So if you look at it right now, number 1 is Breeders, number 2 is Makabu on paper, and I think that could be the mega fight in the cruiserweight division. If it happens, it happens. It's definitely something I would like to happen, because then I could say my fighters fought at the top of the division. It's one thing winning a world title and say you're at the top of the division. It's then taking the number 1 position and being the top.
The man.
The man, 100%. So I'd love for Makabu to fight to become the man. But there's other opportunities maybe to unify for the WBO or the WBA. But right now, our main focus is making a voluntary defense of the WBC. As per the request of the WBC, and we take it from there.
Any idea who that might be?
At the moment, I'm not disclosing information.
You're still busy.
His manager's busy with it, and when the time's right, I'll disclose.
Let's move on from Makabu. Let's go to one of your other star fighters, 14-0, 14 knockouts. Who doesn't like that? Emani with General Colombo. I saw his last couple of fights there in East London. Heavy-handed guy. Huge junior middleweight, I think, if I stand next to him.
Definitely.
Do you think he's going to stay a junior middleweight?
Yeah, definitely. Look, he walks around at 76, 77 kilos. He's solid. He cuts to junior middleweight, no problem. A hard worker, very clever fighter. He knows how to put things together. When you teach him things, he grasps the concepts quickly. So he's got a very bright future in front of him. You know, unfortunately the pandemic hit and we were supposed to fight in Russia. We had offers from Russia, we had offers from Australia, offers from Germany. So at that time I was picking up which one was going to work out best for me, and the pandemic hit. So things got put on ice for a bit. Hopefully things start to open up. But I wanted to start facing international fighters. I'd love for him to compete against some of the UK-based fighters, maybe a Ted Cheeseman or Anthony Fowler or Scott Fitzgerald. Even a big push like a Liam Smith would be a great fight for Colombo. You know, it's questions if Liam Smith still has it.
Yes.
Colombo's on the rise. I think it could be a great war. I think it could be a great fight for TV as well.
But the junior middleweight division is right now, it's a very competitive division at the top. obviously Jamel Charlo has now proved himself as a top dog, 3 of the major belts plus the ring title.
Yes.
So there's a lot there for him to go for if he goes when he goes to the next level.
Definitely. And in the European, even in Europe, you look at Russia's got Magomed, they've got that Israel Madrimov. There's guys in the States. There's the new WBO champion, the Brazilian Teixeira. So there's a couple of guys in the US. So the division's hot. There's definitely. I think we're going to see some great fights in the next 2-3 years in that division.
And going now down to the smaller guys, I think Corsi Dumizweni is a junior bantamweight. You've got had a good win. I think it was Jonas Sultan that got him the silver belt. And then he fought Fernando Martinez, ex-Olympian from Argentina. Yeah. Great fight, ding-dong affair, but eventually he got stopped. What went wrong that night?
I think from the start to the end was just terrible. Their feet caught a clash in round 1. It was ruled a knockdown. It wasn't a knockdown. They tripped each other, orthodox southpaw. What happens? Round 4, Dumizweni catches him with an uppercut. He goes down. The ref doesn't give a count. So
that's correct. The ref must be.
The whole fight from round 1 all the way through to 10 was just the thing. Dumizweni went down in round 10 and Martinez let punches go while Dumizweni was down, which wasn't fair either. And I think it got to a point where it was enough. So mentally, I think my fighter went through a bit of a challenge in that fight. I think the preparation for the fight could have been a lot better. It was very difficult trying to prepare for Martinez when there was no real video footage of Martinez. So we went well-rounded for the fight. If I knew what Martinez had a bit more, I think my guy would have maybe addressed the fight a bit more like how he fought Sultan instead of having a bit more of a war.
You get much stuff on those car cars in the Eastern Cape, and I believe Ayanda Matiti has got some deal with Martinez now.
Yes.
I saw something like that on Facebook. You never know what's what. Is a rematch something that you guys would be interested in?
I would definitely look at a rematch. I'd like to get Dumizweni back into the ring, get him active, and definitely look at a rematch. What Yanda's plan is with Martinez at the moment, I'm not sure. I do know there is some sort of an agreement in place between them. So let's see. I mean, maybe we're going to see another local matchup between Martinez and Dumizweni, or Martinez and Buthelezi. There could be some sort of mix-up.
That might be a good thing. Buthelezi needs a fight as well. Sure. And staying with the small guy theme, we have Jackson Chauke, also under you on the SA flyweight title, and then went once again to Russia and won on the road in Russia. Yes. Great win for him there. Talk us through that.
So Jackson had a good year that year. He won the SA title, then he defended the SA title in 1 round. He had just finished training. I think he had like 3-4 weeks off, and I got a call for offer in Russia to fight the WBC International Champion. I made my terms. That weren't happy, they didn't agree to it. 2-3 weeks later, and they phoned me again to say, okay, we'll take what you're offering and we want the fight. So I said, no problem. Chauke went into camp. We trained exceptionally hard for the fight, but I knew that he had been active enough to go into the fight with 5 weeks notice. And he's at that point of the career where what opportunities are there we need to take and make sure we grab them. And we did it. We traveled to Russia. We traveled to Grozny, Russia, and we beat the champion on his home ground.
On his home ground, WBC international title. And once again, with this pandemic, Jackson is also in limbo. It's hard to say what the future will be there. Obviously, you want to get him something international, maybe steer towards a world title. Now, do they love you in Russia, or do you have to have bodyguards and look over your shoulder? Because you've had success in a very difficult place to have success.
Sure. So I'm 3-3 in Russia. 1 by knockout and 2 by points. So I've had good results in Russia. They've taken good care of us when we are in Russia. And do I need bodyguards? I hope not. Next time I go to Russia, but you never know. But I think for me, the Russian fans love boxing and they love competitive boxing. And for me, it seems like the Russian promoters don't seem to want to sugarcoat their fighters.
Yes.
They'll give them a bit of an easy road in the beginning, and then they want to see what they're made of because they don't want to waste their money, and they're investing a lot of money in their boxing.
Yes, it's not fighting on the road in certain places. For example, Germany, to a lesser extent, but also Russia. The fighters are notoriously for getting a reputation for robbing the away fighter.
Yeah.
Do you think it depends on which promoter's card you fight? Or do you just have to make sure you
I think
you win
you've got to
very
make sure
clearly.
you win convincingly or by stoppage. I think anytime you travel in the road, you're not being brought there to win. Let's be honest, the promoter's bringing you there for his boy to win. And I think it comes down to making sure you get the job done, making sure you guys are well prepared, he's ready for that environment, and understanding the dynamics of what he needs to do. And for me, I think I'll take fights in Germany. I'm not scared of Germany. We've had South Africans get hard decisions, but they leave the fights to be close. So whose fault is it? You want to leave the fights close? That's what's going to happen. So go there, do the job, either win on points comfortably.
Yes.
Make sure you've done the job properly, because there's no question about it, or stop the boy. That's it. You've got to do your job if you're going to travel. Otherwise, if you feel it's too tight, then don't do it.
Your guy fighting tomorrow, Brandon Tyser, is somebody who's not necessarily had the biggest amount of hype. He's obviously from a boxing family, the son of former South African and Commonwealth champion Andre Tyser.
Yes.
And he's had his ups and downs, but now he seems to have had his coming out parties. You've said was very impressive last time out against Rocknap.
Yes.
Now he's got Boyd Allen in front of him. So you guys, I'm sure you've prepared for everything for Saturday night.
Definitely. So Brandon has really come together. He's 26 years old. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Like I said, when he fought Mishlong, he was under Harold, and he lost by stoppage in round 10. The ref stopped the fight. He had just taken too much. He started the fight well for the first 2-3 rounds, and then it just went one way. And from then, Andre approached me and said, Damien, I need you to have a look at Brandon. Would you consider taking over? So I said, Andre, I'll do it for you. I've got a good relationship with you. Let's get it started. And I battled with him. It wasn't easy. I think he mentally wasn't in a good space after losing to Mishlongo, and it was just tough. He had a draw with Linda, which I think if he had just put in the right time and efforts into his camp, he should have beaten Linda comfortably. We had a close split decision, lost against Boyd in the first fight. Questionable. Some people went with Brandon, some people went
very close.
Very
I wouldn't have
fight.
argued 2 points either way.
Yeah.
Brandon maybe started a little late there.
Yeah, and Boyd started a little bit earlier, so it was a very, very close fight. I'm obviously going to go with my fight until he had edged it. Brandon came against Mbia Kanku, and Mbia Kanku came out firing, Congolese fighter, very heavy-handed, pushed the fight to Brandon. Brandon boxed beautifully, won on points, and then we got set up with the forward war. Brandon came out smoking against Raw Canal. He put everything he had into the training camp. He gave me extra hours, everything I wanted, and it all came together just according to the plan. He stuck to it. He boxed beautifully and stopped Rock in round 7, and now we're here back with a rematch.
Now, should you win, I know one doesn't want to look ahead because you focus on that. So let's say Brandon does it on Saturday night. What would you then try and take him the international route, because you have Colombo in the same stable? I suppose they're not going to fight each other.
No.
So would you try and take him the international route from there, or what do you think would go from there?
Definitely, I think there is one questionable fight where I think Brandon's matured now. Maybe a possible rematch with Mishlongo would be nice. I'm not sure if Mishlongo would maybe
be a good fight.
Come back down to junior middle, and I think Brandon has the abilities to beat him now. I think he's come together as an athlete. His way of training, everything he does is now changed. I think that would be a great fight for him. If that's not what happens, definitely start to bring in an international opponent, maybe from Europe or Africa, and start to stem out a bit and build up in the ratings and steer them in the right direction. So hopefully fight for a world title around 29-30.
Okay, now I've asked the same question to many guys in your position. What do you think makes a good trainer? What are the attributes? And I suppose also a part of a combination. You're not going to work with every fighter.
Sure.
Every fighter's not going to work with you.
Definitely. So for me, I think motivation is a big key. I think when you bring in self-belief into an athlete, if you motivate him enough, he gets that self-belief and believes in himself. And I think when a fighter believes in himself, I think he brings out more. Another key aspect as a trainer is being at that gym all the time, putting your life into it, knowing what you want, and showing the fighter that you want it just as bad as they want it. You know, I'm surrounded by a great team. I've got a great assistant trainer. I've got great fighters, and we all want each other to win, and we motivate one another, and we're there for one another, and everyone gives their bit of input, and I think that's what brings out the best in a fighter. If you're able to motivate him, you're able to be at the gym all the time with him, making sure that throughout his preparation you're on top of him, that he knows that you care and that you've got the right steps for him, and he knows that those are the right steps.
Okay. Well, that's it. Danku om takati oncha. Thanks, Damien. It's been a pleasure and best of luck for Saturday.
Thank you very much, Joe.